The Sleeping Beauty Castle actually was known and seen by people a full year before Disneyland actually opened because Walt Disney had a television show called Disneyland. And every week that show opened with a beautiful shot of Sleeping Beauty Castle.
The first time that I saw the castle, it was a magical experience.
Where would you like to go of all the places in Disneyland?
To the great big castle where Sleeping Beauty is.
You read the stories as a little girl, but actually seeing it, it was really amazing.
This is really the theme symbol of the whole Disneyland and the thing nearest and dearest to Walt Disney's heart.
Walt Disney was intimately involved with the original creators of the castle. You can see on opening day how proud he was.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
When the drawbridge came down on July 17th, 1955,
Open the Fantasyland Castle!
it became the gateway to the most precious area in all of Disneyland, where our fables and fairy tales unfold. But what was up inside the castle would not be shown to the public for a good 2 years after the opening of Disneyland.
Initially, the castle did have the shops downstairs, but there was no internal elements put into the castle. After the park established itself for a couple of years, Walt came back and said, let's put something on the inside of the castle.
Walt Disney asked Ivan Earl to come down and help design the key show for the Sleeping Beauty Castle.
Ivan Earl was the color stylist for Sleeping Beauty.
His painting style is really quite unique. He uses a lot of very flat graphic areas, and then he just kind of builds on them layers upon layers, which create a lot of depth in his illustrations.
The Sleeping Beauty Castle project was a series of dioramas in which you look through a glass window and see a story of some kind.
It's kind of a dimensional pop-up storybook.
Ken Anderson was the art director for the walkthrough, and it was his responsibility to interpret the concept art that Ivan Earl had done, faithfully reproduce it in Ivan Earl's style for all the scenes and the tableaus in the castle.
Ken had some wonderful ideas for a walkthrough, but we didn't realize how cramped the area was inside of the castle.
They had to use extreme forced perspective to make these things feel much bigger than they were. It meant that they were bending depths by using mirrors to trick your eye into thinking that you were looking to a great distance. They were relying on a lot of our Imagineering illusioneers, some of the pioneers like Yale Gracie, Fred Jerger, Wathel Rogers, and Bob Gurr.
They were all like combination of artists and scientists.
That was the first application in Disneyland of some artistically brilliant and technically stunning special effects. Nearly 2 years after the opening of Disneyland, on April 29th, 1957, Walt Disney invited Shirley Temple down to open the doors to the inside of that magic castle.
Shirley Temple cut the ribbon, and it was her son's birthday, and so that made it extra special for her.
When the castle opened, the response was incredible because Walt had put in some amazing things that were what we'd call today interactive experiences, where the guests were asked to add their echo to the bottomless pit. Hello. Hello. Or snore in the sleeping sequence. But to create an experience where we're inviting you to interact with it, inviting you to spend as much time and to flow at your leisure through it, he was inviting all kinds of calamities and unexpected things that we'd learn through doing this experience.
When Walt originally envisioned the castle, he had a route that he set up, and they set the plan up. There was a portion where, on the second floor, you actually went outside the castle.
You were kind of looking out over the turrets and parapets of the castle at different knights and things who had fallen asleep.
Walt walked it and said, this isn't going to work.
Drawings for another version of that space show up as architectural drawings a month after the opening. And what they ended up putting in that space are scary-looking medieval doors. And the gag was that you would walk up to the keyhole, put your eye in, and you would see some goons from Maleficent's castle in blacklight looking back at you.
The eyes were mirrors, and the mirrors were shaped in different fashions so that it would reflect your eye. And if you blinked, it blinked, and it looked real, and like goons were back there.
In another keyhole, there was a barrel with probably 50 little mirrors in them that would reflect 50 little eyes back at you.
The mirrored eyes, each one had to be measured very precisely.
So you'd be actually looking at your own eye floating in space where the goon's eye should be. So people would really stop and take their time to look into these keyholes.
And all of a sudden, the line started backing up through the room, down the stairway, down into the next area. And everyone's saying, I wonder what's going on up there. Why aren't we moving?
They ended up shutting down that space, just putting basically a velvet rope across it and closing it down.
Another fun thing was at the very end of the ride, and this only lasted about a month. After the happy ending, and we see Prince Philip awakening Sleeping Beauty, at the end, as you went around the very last corner, Maleficent's ominous shadow pops out.
Unfortunately, if the goons slowed traffic, this gag stopped traffic completely. Children just backed up, just screaming in terror, sure that there was something around the corner waiting to get them.
The walkthrough was designed about 4 years before the film would be complete. So over time, as more and more people saw the film, they began to question, well, gosh, there's a whole lot of things that are in the castle that aren't in the movie. So 21 years later, it was decided to do something that follows more faithfully the story of the motion picture.
In 1977, they completely redesigned the Sleeping Beauty castle walkthrough. They kept the hallways the same and the shapes of the rooms the same, but they tore out the old sets and they put in new, more three-dimensional scenes. Instead of a masonite, hand-painted cutout done in a very graphic style, you had a three-dimensional sculpted figure with real hair and real clothing, done in miniature, of course.
In 2001, we took a long, hard look at it and we said, gee, this doesn't live up to what people remember in the movie. We probably maybe want to let it go to sleep, like Sleeping Beauty did for a few years. Maybe hopefully to awaken with a brand new thing that fits into a world that's very, very different.
And they shut down the walkthrough at that point.
When the opportunity to do the Sleeping Beauty Blu-ray and DVD came around, we were asked by Home Entertainment
to recreate the Sleeping Beauty castle walkthrough as it was.
So a bunch of us, Home Video and Imagineers, got the key to the castle, which had been locked for about 5 years, and we unlocked the door and walked through something that hadn't been seen for many years. When the castle show was changed, a few of the things were locked in walls that had been boarded over. And in there were the very little goons that you had once peeked your eye through the keyhole, and the mirrors and everything were still intact. They had not seen light for almost 50 years. We were lucky enough to have complete sets of all the working drawings that were done between Ivan's original concepts and Ken Anderson's excellent art direction and drafting design. And we were even so lucky as to find where the special effects were laid out into the scenes.
Some of these scenes have 50 flats in them, all interlocking or going off at different strange angles, and with the forced perspective and the strange shape of the different rooms. It may look very strange from the top or the side, but when you get down in and you look at it from that guest view, it makes this amazing little scene that you can see. All of us working on this recreation of the attraction feel very lucky to have been part of it, because to recreate this in the style of the original Imagineers is almost akin to working with them yourself.
The Sleeping Beauty Castle is an icon. It's a gem. You walk through there and it's so beautiful. It's so special. Looking through all those windows, it's like looking into a jewelry box.
Now that this is done and we've seen the incredible result of it, something you thought you'd never see again is now preserved forever.